Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Ladies and gentlemen, prepare yourselves for an extraordinary guest. Our guest today is a true multifaceted talent whose journey from childhood dreamer to award-winning artist is nothing short of inspiring. From the tender age of creating captivating performances with her friends for her adoring parents, she's blossomed into a powerhouse in the entertainment industry. As an actor, she's graced both the stage and the screen, always in search of roles that truly resonate with her vision of strong, dynamic female characters. Unwilling to wait for these roles to come to her, she took destiny into her own hands, penning a screenplay, Brace Water, a gripping, female-driven cop thriller that won numerous accolades. But that was just the beginning. With her award-winning sci-fi short script, Savior, and 3 multi-award-winning short films, Of the Rate, Complaint, and Promises, she has proven time and again her ability to craft compelling narratives that captivate audiences and critics alike. Her writing is so prolific that she's practically wearing out her keyboard. If her keystrokes could count frequent flyer miles, they would have traveled around the world much like her award-winning films and scripts. Her writing and performances have garnered recognition across the industry, featured in various articles and festivals. Now, as a writer, she's penned over 20 screenplays, several of which are under consideration by top producers, managers, directors from LA to Toronto. Her talent extends beyond writing and acting. She's also educated in nutrition and personal training with a BSc from the University of Toronto, specializing in psychology and majoring in crime and deviance. Her intellectual pursuits are as varied as her artistic ones. She's an avid sewer and has crafted many costumes worn on stage, adding yet another layer of creativity to her impressive repertoire. She's known for her roles in Demonstration Sport, Double Edge, Brave Little Army, A Fresh Start, Advocate, Infested, and Urban Legends, just to name a few. Now, her mantle is adorned with numerous awards, including the 2021 Award of Merit for Complaint, the 2021 Canadian Cinematography Award for Best Film, and Best Canadian Film for Of the Rate, along with Best Actress in both films. Her accolades also include the 2020 Award of Excellence, the Humanitarian Award of Distinction, being listed as top 10 actresses to watch in 2017, the 2016 Award for Acting Excellence, and the 2011 Bloom Award for the Best Actress, just to highlight a few. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the unstoppable, the extraordinary storyteller and performer, Cynthia. Wow, welcome to the show. Thank you so much.
Thanks. I'm overwhelmed with me. That was great.
So is the mantle still hanging strong? I mean, everything's on there. Is it pulling off of the drywall yet?
Yeah, not yet.
And now I want to ask you, I want to dive into this. You've been telling stories since you were young. What are some of the earliest memories of writing and performing for your parents?
So when I was younger, I would cajole my next door neighbors. I would write a story and then I would cajole them into coming over. They really didn't have any choice in the matter. One of the stories that I wrote was about Remembrance Day, and I do remember that my mother was extremely mad at me after she applauded my performance because we used red paint for the blood, and the upstairs bathroom looked like a mass murder had taken place, just with blood everywhere. But this has been my passion since, if you ask my dad, since I was born, right? I was born to tell stories. And they were a captive audience. They had no choice. They had to watch. But
Why Remembrance Day? Why was that the earliest one for you?
well, I did a bunch of shorts during that period. I did Remembrance Day. I did one about finding love in the 50s. So it was all 50s songs. Because I am old enough that my parents' music of choice was the 60s and the 50s. So that was kind of what was resonating with me. I've always said, and it's true now as well, is that what I write is what is rattling around in my brain. And I think that's true for most writers. I can't tell you how or why it forms. Sometimes it doesn't. It seems like it might be a good idea for me to write about, and then it doesn't, and then something comes out of left field. So why Remembrance Day? it was there, it was something to do. It's and not belittling the importance of Remembrance Day and honoring, the soldiers and veterans. But I think I did it, and I can't even remember. I can't, aside from the red paint, I can't remember what the story was actually about. I mean, I'm sure it was about fighting and veterans and honoring it, but I honestly don't. I wish that back then my parents had had a camcorder or something to film them, because my memory, it's not that clear.
I think that's probably one of the funniest stories I've heard. You're doing this performance, and I could just picture your parents walking in and saying, "What the heck happened in the bathroom?"
It wasn't even, and it was after the performance, right? So we had put on the play, and then I sent everybody upstairs to the bathroom to wash up, because of course blood was red paint and bandages and all over your clothes. And yeah, it was a mess. It was a mess. Good play though. We had a good time.
So from going from there, from 20 screenplays and more, what does that inception look like for you? From thought bubble to pen and paper to keyboard to saying, is this going to work or not?
I'm going to tell you, it was a long journey to get to where I am now. So I focused on being a performer first, an actor. And I didn't even do that until after I graduated university, right? That's when I decided that I was going to now shift my focus to the creative arts, because I believe that I'm going to say everybody, but not everybody, the majority of creative people, when you're bitten with that bug as a child, I don't think it ever goes away. For me personally, it almost did. That flame almost went out, but I refanned it. So my journey to get to where I am here is that I was an academic first, got my degree, and then went straight back into acting. And I did that for years and years and years. And as every actor will tell you, it's your return on investment is not always tangible, right? It's what you put into that specific area of creativity isn't exactly what you're going to get back, because there's too many subjective things that happen. So I was approaching 50. I think I was 49 years old, and I was talking to a director friend of mine who lives in LA, and I was telling him that I was just frustrated with the types of roles that I was being presented with, because they were all girlfriends or, moms, and there's nothing wrong with those roles, but I gravitate towards cops and, army, right? That going back to the Remembrance Day play, I like strong female characters. And he said, well, then you should write one. And I thought, what are you talking about? I can't write anything. And he goes, yeah, you could. And so I'm going to preface this by saying I was always a very good writer. I was always very good at telling stories from high school all the way through. So I read a book, and you think that I would start with a short film, because that would have been the sane thing to do. Yeah. But I sat down and wrote a feature, and it was bad. The first draft always is. But then I refined it, and then I moved on from there. Once I had written that, then I moved on to write Obdurate, which did very well, and I'm very proud of that one. That one is actually, it's the 5-year anniversary of me making that film. After I did that, COVID hit, and it was awesome. So I wrote, when we could go back with masks, I wrote Compliant, which also did very well. And then Promises did really well, and Promises was kind of like, well, let's see what can happen. Can we really do something with zero budget? And I think I spent $20 on snacks, and we didn't even know if it would edit together, right? Like, it was just something fun to do outside during COVID. And I said, yeah, I can write 2 pages. I can write 2 pages for one person. And I wrote it. And now I can't stop writing. It's kind of like this cork that's come out, and I just can't stop writing, and I love it. And I think that what I produce is strong enough that, I mean, I've had my director friend and others ask me to write things for them with them. So It's not just me saying it's good stuff. So yeah.
Now your background, as you touched on it, it does come into psychology, crime, and deviance. Now, do you feel that this helps influence your storytelling and character development when we look at these? You're drawn to those cop and those military roles. Do you believe that that has that little echo into it from your background?
Yes. And it's also, so I was destined to be in the creative arts. And I was the first grandchild, first child, and it was kind of air quote expected that I would go to university. So I took the thing closest to creativity that I could, right? Because psychology and crime and deviance, it's about watching people, understanding people, why are they behaving in a certain way? And that does influence my writing very, very strongly. And as does the fact that I grew up watching CSI and every cop show that you could, right? Like all of those, and huge Stephen King fan. So a lot of my stories have that twist to them as well. I don't like telling a story that's all surface. I do like it to have like a little bit of a twist to it. So all of those things do play into the writing process for sure.
So then when you sit there and say, I have this idea, this is my next story that's going to come up, we're gonna talk it out, workshop it as much as we can. If your best guess was, hey, from inception to putting pen to paper or keys to fingers, what would you say? Hey, that's a 6-month process for me, a year process, or to get something out that is tangible to you to keep moving forward with. What would you say your timeline would be roughly?
It depends. I'm a quick writer. Once I get an into the story, now the in may take me a little while. So, and it's funny you asked that because I never really sat down and thought about what my writing process was. And then someone asked me that the other day. And I think about it a lot before I sit down. So when I sit down, I kind of know the story. And I mean, I've written a feature script, not great, right? First pass is always gonna need to be refined. And I'm the good thing. So and I've written a script in a week. Not a great script, but I've written it in a week. But the good thing about me is I know that a lot of my friends who are writers get paralyzed because they're editing while they're writing, or they're thinking about, oh well, we have to go back and change this. And the good thing about me is I kind of sit down, I'm like a ram, I just plow through. And then if I get to a point and I'm like, oh, this has to happen, well, for that to happen we have to change that, I'll do that. But I'm pretty good about just putting pen to paper, metaphorically, and just getting it on the page, and then I'll go back and I'll finesse it, and I'll set then, and at that point, after I've finessed it, then I send it out to people that I trust, so that they can say, what were you thinking when you wrote this? Or, hey, what about this? And I do have a couple of really good friends where I'll say, I'm thinking about this. Like for Bracewater, one of the twists in it, I had no idea where it was going. And I had a friend over one night and we were drinking a glass of wine, and he said, oh my God, what about this? And I went, oh, yeah, that's brilliant. And then it got put in the script.
So we end up highlighting things, like writer's block. We're so in touch with it where we just can't get past what we want to push through, and then ultimately what comes out is what I've been hearing is a vomit script where everything goes out, and then we can start cleaning up the little pieces of saying, hey, that shouldn't be there, and
Yeah.
dial back. Now you've penned over 20 screenplays and you're still going, which is amazing. Can you give us a sneak peek into anything that's up and coming that you're working on?
Well, I just helped a friend of mine, and I don't know if he's going to keep the suggestions that I made. He has a script that he had written during the pandemic with a friend of his that is so firmly crying out to be a horror or a thriller that he gave it to me and said, we're calling it the Stephen King pass. He said, can you just do a Stephen King pass on this, because when I read it, I was like, yeah, like, how did you not see that at the beginning?
Mhm.
So I'm helping him with that. That might go somewhere, it might not. Like, it's all, you never know if things are going to gain traction or if they're not. But he's one of the people that I respect maybe the most in this industry, and for him to ask me to even consider taking a pass at that was amazing. I have another feature that I'm going to be starting, I guess, next week. um, and it's just an idea. Like, my friend Jody, who we talked about before we started here, he's a headshot photographer, but I've been friends with him for almost 40 years now. He had a client who had this amazing idea, but she's not a screenplay writer, and he said, would you listen to her idea? And I thought, sure, okay. But it was great. It was a great idea. So I have that to find my way into and write next. And I just keep writing. I just can't stop.
I love that. And I want to switch gears with you here for a bit. Now, as a performer and as an actor, do you have a go-to method for getting into character? Like, you get that audition side, you've beaten the script, you've gone through, you found your moments. Outside of, what we're typically taught in acting 101, what is Cynthia's go-to method to getting into that character to bring the truth out?
I struggled with this because, as mentioned, I didn't go to school. I didn't go to theater school. Um, and at the very beginning of my career, I had to shake off a lot of bad habits that I had formed from community theater, where I just kind of, theater's a little more forgiving now. I know you have to be connected to everything, but I had to shake off the facade to connect with the reality of the character, and that took a long time. So now that I feel very comfortable with that, the next challenge that I have, I know people who can read a script and they connect immediately with the words. So when they say them, it's connected and it's real and it's grounded. And for me, my process when I get an audition is, first thing I do is I learn the lines so well that I'm not worrying about them. And then I let it go, because I don't think, with rare exception, for auditions, if you mess up some words, they're not going to go, oh, she was so good until she said the instead of and. So I learned the lines and then I put them away, because then I get in front of the camera and I do it before I even get a reader in the room. I run it, and I tape it and I watch it. And then I run it and I run it and I tape it and I watch it. And I run it and I run it and I tape it and I watch it. And I know that there's some people out there that say, well, you should only do it 7 times. I'm like, I don't know about that. You do it until you feel really comfortable with it and you found the nuances. So I think that because I have a strong theater start to acting, my way to get into the character and the way I've always found the nuances for dialogue, for moments, for, oh, she's really thinking this, or here's the switch,
Mhm.
is to just do it and do it and do it. Because in theater, you rehearse and you rehearse and you say it and you say it. So I find and it's a little more time consuming for sure, but I think that it produces very strong results, because then you understand. And I envy. So my strength is that I have a superpower of memorizing lines. I can memorize dialogue pretty quickly. I know other people who have superpowers where they can't memorize the lines, but they connect to it like that.
Mhm.
And so mine is a little more of a struggle to really connect to the lines and make it grounded and real. But I get there.
Good. And truly, from your performances and the reviews of everything online, you do. You get there, you nail the part, and you knock it out. If you look back on all the performances that you've done, is there a specific role that just stands out to you? You look back and say, everything I've done, that's the one that just for some reason doesn't leave the heartstrings.
So I'm thinking, for theater versus film roles, I would say for film, it would actually be the role I had in Obdurate. And it's in part because that was the first completed script that I wrote that got produced. So it's near and dear to my heart. I'm very proud of it. And I'm very proud of the performance in it. Though, performance again is very subjective, because I had one person email me and say, That was the worst performance I've ever seen. And I was like, okay, noted. Thank you. But so that one, and I can't differentiate if it's the performance or if it's the the whole package, because it was the first thing that I produced, and it was the first thing that I wrote that got made, and it was a good role for me. And on stage and just in general, I like playing strong characters, and I've been told when I have to play not weak characters, but maybe characters that don't have as much chutzpah.
Okay.
I struggle with those ones. So and those are the ones that I really need to work on, because they say, what is your hit as an actor, and what do you not have to look at? Well, I don't have to worry about me coming across as weak in a character or in an audition. I will automatically bring that strength. So lawyers, and like I said, cops and detectives and military personnel, those are my natural hit. And those are the ones that I love playing, because they're strong, but then you find their vulnerability, and it makes this character just juicy.
I like that you said that, because it's this meat on the bone premise that I'm hearing, and I could be wrong, but it's give me a character that people are going to want to play. Everyone needs a role, but it doesn't mean that the writing or the intellectual property behind it has to be kind of slacked, right? As you said, well, why would you say the as opposed to and? And hey, you were great right up until that point. So it is neat that you say that when we look at these meat on the bone roles. When you look outside of the military and police and those authoritative roles, is there something else that you would love to play? Like, the leading lady, or the mom in the new whatever MOW of the week is, or Hallmark movie.
Okay, so listen, I like playing Hallmark characters. I do. I have not yet been cast. I'm waiting for that moment. But I like playing those characters because, again, the characters that I get, come across as stronger. And I kind of like that dichotomy against the lovey-dovey aspect of it. But so I'll say I just finished a play in Burlington, and the role that I was cast in it was like the sex pot, right? I don't naturally gravitate to those roles, and it scared me to have to play this role, and it was a good experience for me, because it made me dig deep, and it increased my capabilities as an actor. So now when I see those types of roles, I'll never play the sex pot. I will never play the sex pot in a movie, because I don't, as one friend told me, he said, you kind of clump instead of slide elegantly across the floor. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. But now I know that I have that in me, right? Like I have that sexiness in me that I can pull out. And that was actually a really neat thing for me to discover. So that would be something that I would like to be cast in, like the sexy, whatever lead woman who's, I don't know, whatever. It would be fun.
I love that description where your friend said to you, you're kind of clunking along the floor. You have to slide and float. That's
Listen, I was a tomboy as a kid. Like it's carried with me.
so. Looking ahead, what are your biggest goals and dreams for the next step for Cynthia?
Um, Putting the sexy sex pot aside, my goal, my big dream right now, my big goal is to have someone produce one of my films. I write all of my films with me in mind to be in them. I'm not sure that I could ever sell Bracewater without being in that one, but there are other features that I have out there right now with producers and directors that I would love for someone to say, yeah, you know what? This is the script that we want to make. Let's talk. So, and that's, that's just like, it's a toss of the dice. It's tenacity, it's perseverance, it's connections, it's networking, it's not being a pain in someone's back end. And so I'm hopeful that that happens. Now, I did have a short, so the baby steps towards that goal is that I did have a short film that I wrote for my director friend in LA. He filmed that out in LA, so that was done. Now, I did that gratis, so for the credit on IMDb. But that's the first step, right? So now you build your book, and then you get a film made, and then the next one I do will be, okay, here's my next film, but that role is mine. So those are the steps that I have
All
towards
right.
success.
I have a couple of rapid fire questions I want to ask you, and it's just
Eek.
whatever the first thing pops into your head, that's the best answer. Are you ready to play?
Okay, but I don't have that little filter thing, so just be prepared.
Even better. What's the worst piece of advice you've ever received?
uh you need to get a full-time real job.
And if you could play any character, real or fictional, which one would it be?
Blanche Devereaux.
And what's your favorite movie of all time?
Oh shoot. I'm gonna say Silence of the Lambs.
Ooh, all right. And if
And
you
I'll tell you, just before you continue that, I just had a friend of mine and we were talking, and I said, I think that the only star in Hollywood that I would have my knees buckle for would be Jodie Foster. No offense to every other star out there, but she's been my guiding beacon for most of my life. So,
I love that.
okay, next.
If you could go back in time and give your younger self a piece of advice, what would it be?
Go to art school.
And if you could instantly learn a new skill, what would you choose?
Whoa. Instantly learn a new skill. You know what? I have no idea. What would I want to do? Ski? Maybe. I don't even think I want to ski, but maybe. I have no idea. I'm gonna pass. Can you pass on a question?
100%.
Okay.
Now, what's one thing people would be surprised to learn about you?
I'm a huge introvert. Um, yeah, it takes a lot for me to talk. My brother could have you at ease, laughing. He'd know your whole life story in 5 minutes, and I would be sitting in a corner. It's hard for me to be extroverted. I think that's common for actors.
And what's the best sandwich in your opinion?
Every sandwich. Oh my God. I'm a sandwich queen and I make the best sandwiches on the planet. I'm going to tell you, it has to have avocado, cheese, lettuce, tomato, some type of protein, and whole grain bread.
Ooh.
Dude, love a sandwich. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack. I love sandwiches. Sandwiches are my jam.
What's your favorite smell?
Fresh cut grass. Reminds me of my grandma's.
I was thinking that in my head, surprisingly. And are you a window seat or aisle seat type of person?
Window.
Ooh. And do you like cats or dogs?
Cats, got two of them, but I love dogs. I'm slowly becoming a dog lover. I've always loved dogs, but I can see myself maybe getting one day, but I love cats. I have two cats.
And do you like sandals or shoes?
Shoes. Just because I have crappy feet. If I had nice, pretty feet, I'd wear sand. I'd rock a sandal, but no, I don't. Got my dad's feet.
And Cynthia, in your opinion, what's something that needs to change starting to tomorrow with the entertainment industry?
Oh my good gosh. In Canada specifically, I think that a open more open door policy with casting directors when calling in new talent would be appreciated. I know in the States they more actively look for up and coming or want to see new talent, and I think here you have to earn your spot, which is not a bad thing, but I think that it would be nice to find a way to entertain, because I know so many strong, talented actors that just aren't getting into rooms to be seen. And I think that it would create a stronger pool from which to choose.
And where can people learn more about you?
Well, you can go to my IMDb page, which is Cynthia Crofoot, or you could go to my website, which is www.cynthiacrofoot.com. And you can learn all about me. There's also a little page at the end. You can email me if you want, and I'll get back to you.
And Cynthia, what's something that scares you?
I'm on a dating website right now. That scares the hell out of me. I'm just going to say that. Yeah, you went honest. There you go.
I love that. And Cynthia, I have time for one last question for you today. And thank you so much for being on Coffee with Chris. It's been an absolute pleasure. And that's what makes Cynthia smile.
Pretty much everything. I'm a smiler. You know, I'm a smiler and I'm a hugger.
That's amazing. And as I said, that was my last question for you today. Thank you so much for being here with myself and everyone watching. Everyone out there, remember to smile to inspire and have a fantastic day. And check out Cynthia Crofoot wherever possible. Please get out there and check her out. Thank you so much.
Thank you.